How are you, Jerry?
I'm good, Raul. How are you?
Good, good, good. Yeah.
And now I'm trying to find the camera again. Hold on, guys. See? No, that's not it. There you go. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Everything's fine.
Mhm.
All right. I'll go ahead and start it off. Record. Hold on. Record. I don't know why it's. Did it click on over there?
No, I mean it does show that
Feels
it's
live.
it's live on YouTube.
It's live.
Yeah,
Yeah. Click it.
but I'm not sure if you stopped the recording or not.
Let me, because it says it's live.
Okay. I mean it's live on YouTube, but I'm not sure if you're recording right
It
here on
says,
this
it
platform.
says, it says live here.
Okay.
It says live here. I don't know if it's clicking on over here.
Okay.
And folks, bear with us. Video. Here's this. Hold on. Yeah, it says it's live. So we'll take it from there. Okay. Anyway, I'm glad you guys are here. Today we're going to have the debate for Webb County Judge 2026, and I gave everybody ample time, all the candidates, and one of them just ignored the calls, and the other one said they have a event tonight, and he had to decline coming in. All in all, the important part is those who show up, and we'll take it from there. Raul and Jerry, I wish you all well. I wish you all
Good
the
call.
best, and especially in this campaign, because I know everything's going to get very hideous and troublesome in the next couple of weeks. And God bless you both. We're going to have 2 minutes for opening, 2 minutes for closing, 2 minutes for rebuttal, and 1 minute to answer each of the questions. There's some questions that are some of our subscribers sent in. None of these questions are to attack anybody. It's the same question for both of you. What I'll start is if I start with Raul, then Jerry will start the next question and we go on down the line from there. Okay. To make it fair for everybody. Okay. You guys ready?
Yes.
Alrighty.
All righty. So we'll start with Raul. You do your little opening. Take it from there.
Yeah. Well, first of all, good afternoon, and thank you so much, Paul, for bringing the candidates for Webb County Judge together in this important conversation about the future of our county. Look, I'm no stranger to Webb County and the political arena. I've been around for 2 decades. I had the good fortune of serving as mayor for 14 years, being elected at the age of 21 years old to serve my community. But prior to that, I started my advocacy and community involvement at the age of 14, volunteering at the Boys and Girls Club, trying to remove the stigma in the communities of El Cenizo and Rio Bravo, where back in the day we were known as communities with an abundance activity of gang-related activity and so many other negative connotations to both El Cenizo and Rio Bravo. So in that capacity, I volunteered. I made sure that we got our youth out of the streets, more active in extracurricular activities. And I kept my involvement. I ran when I was 19 years old, right out of high school, and I lost, obviously. But I, kept persistent in terms of being active and staying involved in my community and The good people of Encinizo allowed me to serve them at the age of 21 and for 7 consecutive terms. Now I serve as Webb County Treasurer. During this time, I am not only responsible for the accounting of the county's over 300 million budget, and at the same time, I'm also the investment officer for Webb County. And since taking office January 1st, 2019, with respects to the energy and innovation that we've brought into the office, I've been able to generate Webb County over $40 million. If you put that into perspective, the administration, the Tano Tijerina administration, took office with a fund balance of about $17 million. Right now, the fund balance sits at around $114 million. So our contribution as the county treasurer's office has been significant to that. And, I'm running like everyone else because I deeply care about Webb County. I care about its future, and I want to see us not only continue to grow, but move forward into an era where we provide good paying jobs, continue to secure our communities and keep them safe and strong. But most importantly, do something different, and that is putting people first. That is my whole campaign, putting people and families first in the decision-making process.
Thank you, Raul. Now, Mr. Garza.
Well, Paul, I appreciate also the opportunity to come on to your program here. These types of discussions are extremely important, especially considering how important this election is going to be. I am Jerry Garza, and I am running for a Webb County judge. And I would like the opportunity to tell people why it is that I got into the race. I've had an opportunity to go and speak to thousands of people throughout this campaign and throughout this election, and that really is one of the most wonderful things about this campaign is the opportunity to be able to go out there and talk to people about the things that are happening in our community and to hear the concerns that they have about the future of Webb County and what we can do to do better and get better as a county. One of the things I'm asked all the time is, Jerry, why did you decide to run? Why did you want to do this? And then I said, look, the answer is very simple because I live in this community also. And if Webb County succeeds, then we all succeed. And so it's important that we are able to do that. But most importantly, the core tenets of my campaign, and I've said this from day one, and I will say it all throughout this campaign and even post-campaign, is what we are here to do is to help our families secure their family, their finances, and their future. Because everything that we do as elected officials should be to improve some aspect of everyone's family, their future, and their finances. One of the things that we talk about all the time is how can we as government put more money into people's wallets than take out of it? And right now, with the way things are and with the way things are happening, and with things are happening in Washington and in Austin, and with all the distractions and all of that, I guess let's say that all that negativity coming out of there is Webb County and local governments are in the best position possible to be able to shield our people and shield our constituents from all of that because we can react quickly to the needs of our community. And so some of the things that I'm focusing on include implementing a homestead exemption so that we can put more money back into people's wallets so that we can also make home ownership more affordable, to be able to draw in more economic opportunity for our constituents. And I tell people this not because of what I plan on doing, but because I have a track record of the things that I've done. I served 8 years as Webb County Commissioner. We brought in hundreds of millions of dollars in projects to our community, including road projects, infrastructure projects, environmental projects, all different types of things that we brought into our community back when I served as county commissioner. And so I will not only tell you the things that I plan on doing, but also that I would be able to do it because I have a history of doing that. And I humbly ask for everyone's support and their vote in being able to move our county forward.
Thank you. Now, the next one's going to be, you're going to start off, and remember, it's going to be a minute. You're going to hear a little whistle go off. That's the way I train my guys. So I have to have a minute. And we go over that. So the first question, Mr. Garza, is this: Webb County leaders have faced public disagreements over property purchases, office relocations, and budget priorities. How will you improve transparency, reduce internal conflict, and restore public trust in county decision making?
Well, I think one of the things that and I again I've done in the past and would bring back or continue to do at Webb County is when soliciting property or services or anything else is to ensure that the procurement process and the purchasing process is completely transparent from the very beginning, and that would be and again and if we're looking at a piece of property is to identify exactly what the needs are in the community or what it is that we're trying to secure and for what purposes. And then to go out and look for proposals from the community, from owners who may have the type of property, the type of service, or the type of equipment that we're looking for, and to be able to ensure that we are getting the best deal for the taxpayers. Look, we collect so much money in taxes, and we need to be good stewards of all those tax dollars and making sure that every single dollar that is invested and that we do have a return on that investment. But I think everything has to be completely transparent from the very beginning, and to make sure that what we are soliciting and what we're asking for truly is in the best interest of the community and truly is going to serve the customer service so that we can make, again, the lives of people in Webb County just a little bit better and a little bit easier.
You. Now, Mr. Reyes.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for that question, Paul, because I think it's something very important, which leads back to one of my core pillars of the campaign, and that is people first leadership and obviously efficient government and lower cost. Now, when you talk about procurement process, I want to make it very clear that the county already has a system in place where the procurement process is open and transparent. And it's run through the purchasing agent and their department. Everything goes before the commissioner's court, and ultimately they are the decision makers when it comes to procurement. And now I understand the frustration. I understand that people may not, feel that county government is as transparent as it should be. And so, therefore, my approach will continue to always be to include people in the decision-making process, to engage them early on, especially when these issues are not only going to have a long-lasting impact on them and their wallets, but most importantly, about the future of our county. Look, reality is that throughout history, governments, especially local governments, have been very reactive in terms of the growing concerns and the growing pains of our community, whether that's traffic, whether that's limited space, whether that's enhanced services. We need to do a better job. We need to ensure that we not only recognize that county government is unique and different from municipal government, where the county judge and the county commissioners and the court in itself also needs to be very mindful and cognizant that we have other elected officials that are duly elected by the voters. And we need to not only reach across the aisle, we need to work with them, include them in the decision-making process, and also include people as well.
Thank you. When you hear the whistle, it's 1 minute, okay, on both of you.
I don't think I've heard the whistle. Have
Okay.
you?
Yeah, yeah. Have you heard it? Did you hear it?
No.
Okay,
Mhm.
no problem. We'll do it next. Now, this one goes with you, Mr. Reyes. With rising operational costs and infrastructure needs, what specific reforms will you implement to improve efficiency while protecting taxpayer dollars?
Well, when you talk about the efficiency of government, it's important to note that Webb County is not only the sixth largest county in the state of Texas, but we are also a county that's very diverse and we engage in other activities that other counties do not. And our unique position, not only along the US-Mexican border, but with respects to international trade, positions us at a point where we must do better when it comes to solving the everyday problems of our community. And so efficient government starts by recognizing the hard work of our men and women who serve as public servants in their respective departments or under elected officials, and the good work that continues to be done and the progress that continues to be made throughout the course of the years. But we also need to recognize that there is a need to not only implement safeguards, performance-based budgeting. That's something that I want to ensure that if anybody, department or elected office, will be requesting additional funds, that we have a performance-based plan, right? And we also need to do more with respects to the internal policies and the procedures that we have in place and the services that we provide. Webb County is in a financial stronghold. There is money available. However, you need to have the right person in office to ensure that we continue to grow Webb County in a smart way, addressing the needs of our community and obviously putting people first. And most importantly, being fiscally responsible, right? We've seen what other governments, other leaders have done that almost bankrupt the county. That's why, it's important to have people with the right experience in office making these decisions and obviously proposing. I did that when I was mayor for 14 years. I will gratefully have, do the same thing if people allow me to serve as their next Webb County judge.
Thank you. We'll give you the extra time. Garza, go ahead.
And I'm sorry, Paul, can you repeat the question again?
The question: with rising operational costs and infrastructure needs, what specific reform will you implement to improve efficiency while protecting taxpayer dollars?
Well, I think we got to be smarter, obviously, about how we spend every single dollar that we have in the county. And so that's why one of the things that I would want to bring back, and we did that while I was county commissioner, was bringing in the Intergovernmental Affairs Committee between the city and the county. Look, one of the things that I recognize, especially representing Precinct 3, which encompassed almost 95% of the population of my constituents was inside the city of Laredo, is that everybody in Webb County is a taxpayer of Webb County. And everybody should expect services from Webb County as well. And so the idea was, how can we get more bang for our buck and making sure that we're leveraging every dollar possible so that we do minimize the waste. And so the Intergovernmental Affairs Committee was designed and created, and it was my agenda item that brought it in, was to bring the city and the county together. It says, how can we cooperate? How can we maximize our resources so that we're not duplicating services or we're not spending twice the amount of money on the same things that we do? And so it was that Intergovernmental Affairs Committee that helped us bring in the Troutman International Park that we had in North Laredo. It helped us bring in the Fernando Salinas Community Center that we saw in the heart of my precinct. And it was also that committee that helped us spur everything that you're seeing that's happening on Loop 20 right now, and making sure that we can maximize the dollar and that we're not wasting money. One of the things that I also want to be able to bring in is a memorandum of understanding where we can bring in areas of mutual cooperation. Look, there's no reason that the city and the county should spend separate money on parks. We should work with the city of Laredo. We should work with the city of Rio Bravo, El Cenizo, and all of the communities and work together and maximize our dollar to be able to find those areas that we work together: parks, streets, roads, environment. And so that way we're all pulling in the same direction. And if we're all pulling in the same direction, the only possible outcome is success, because we're all on the same page and we all know where we're going and we're all working together. And that's really the only truly way that we can become more efficient and more successful.
Thank you. The next question you will start, and it says, how would your administration recruit and retain qualified county employees while ensuring accountability and performance standards and ethical leadership across all departments?
One of my first agenda items as Webb County Commissioner in 2005 was to ensure that we brought in a minimum level of requirements for employees at Webb County. Prior to that, there were no minimum requirements. There were no minimum. Job postings didn't even have minimum requirements on it. I realized that in order to enhance the services to our community, we needed to make sure that the talent that we brought into Webb County was top-notch talent. And so we started by putting in minimum requirements on our job posting and even making sure that we posted jobs. Because prior to that, it was who was my friend, or who did I know, or who we brought in, being able to put in job postings, and that was important. And from there, it led to other things. It led to county government implementing a civil service commission. Civil Service Commission, we fought for really hard because we wanted to make sure that the employees in Webb County were protected from politics. The last thing you want is to wake up, go to work, and then just because administrations change or because I didn't do something that I was asked to do outside the scope of work, that I would get terminated. And so civil service, since its implementation, has made sure that people's jobs were protected, that they had the capacity to be able to continue to provide for their families without the worry of political retribution. And those were the things that we brought in as a commissioner's court. And so I have a history of looking after employees and making sure that they're protected, and making sure that we're bringing in the most talented employees into Webb County.
Thank you. Mr. Reyes?
Well, I recognize that, the important aspect of civil service, and I'm glad that was something that is being brought up because unfortunately, even with civil service, you still have many employees who, are often asked to do things outside of their scope of work. And regardless of civil service or not, it's very concerning that we still have these issues in 2026 with respects to our employees. We look, our employees get the grunt of the work, and what we need is a county judge who is going to be a champion and an advocate for our workforce. And that is what I did when I was mayor for 14 years. That's what I've done as county treasurer. I recognize the importance of our workforce. I also recognize that we have to do a better job to ensure that we have competitive wages, and that we're not losing our talent to other regions and other areas. I think instead of criticizing the system in place, we need to ensure that we evaluate it, that we strengthen it, and ensure that the hiring practice that is currently in place, which is through HR and the NeoGov system, screening candidates, making sure that they meet the qualifications that are established by the Civil Service Commission and the department heads. I think we need to do a better job at strengthening those requirements. And most importantly, I think we need to do a better job to do what's right by our employees, making sure that they're seen, making sure that they're heard. And it all starts by ensuring that we continue to work with not only our department heads, but our elected officials to not only navigate the complexity of the hiring process, but to ensure that it is transparent and most importantly, that the people who apply, which is the case, all meet the qualifications that are being dictated. And we currently have a wage study that's being undertaken in terms of making sure that we have competitive wages across every single department, every single elected office. And that's what we need to do. We need to focus on ensuring that our human resources has the tools and resources they need to better serve Webb County employees. And that's one of my commitments if I'm elected to serve as the next Webb County judge.
Thank you. Now, the next one will be Mr. Reyes who will start.
Mhm.
Okay. And we're going to go into the emergency management portion of it, which the question is, Webb County has faced challenges related to water system reliability, extreme weather, and flood-prone areas. What immediate improvements would you prioritize to strengthen emergency preparedness and infrastructure resilience?
Well, thank you for that question because it's a very important question. And I'm glad that we have more candidates talking about the need to work with our municipal counterparts because that's something that I started my campaign with is ensuring that we reach out to our municipal counterparts and not just, the city of Laredo, but also the cities of El Cenizo, Rio Bravo, the people that live out in the rural areas, the colonias on 359, 59. Bruni, Mirando, Aguilares, Oilton, those people matter too. They are our constituency. And it's right, when you look at the overall regional aspect and context of who we are as Webb Countyans, you must understand that what happens in Laredo affects Webb County, and what happens in Webb County affects Laredo. But most importantly, what happens in the rural areas also has a very detrimental effect. So ensuring that we start looking at Webb County as a region and start regional planning in terms of public safety, health services, it's the way to move forward because pandemics, because health crises, emergency disasters, they have no boundaries, Paul. And I think that's very important. Look, I respect the work that Jerry did when he was commissioner, but during the time that he served as commissioner was a time where the city and the county broke off, and with the Laredo Fire Department and the services that they provided out into the rural areas. So now, when you talk about excess spending, now the county has gone into not only building fire stations, building public health facilities, and most importantly, equipping firefighters to be able to serve and contract into private ambulance services that don't even meet the bare minimum of the outgrowing demand of the rural areas and the response time. So my approach is going to be what I focused on the campaign when I first started is we need to start looking at county government as a collaborative working relationships, not only with our municipal counterparts at a regional level, but also with our state and federal representatives as well. And that's going to be one of my top priorities to ensure that we start focusing on regional planning aspects for managing emergency management. And I'm the only candidate that has actually served as an emergency management coordinator. I did so during a lot of crises within emergency management in El Cenizo. And I am ready to serve in that capacity and bring forth, real progressive change when it comes to Webb County.
Thank you. Mr. Garza?
Yeah, and I think it is very important that we collaborate with all of our partners in Webb County and to be able to coordinate any response to emergencies. But we've got to put ourselves in a position where we anticipate much of this stuff and get ahead of it so that we are prepared when natural disasters strike. Or when any type of emergency strikes. It is important. I mean, we've seen that happen all across the state and all across the country where communities were just not prepared. And they identified some of those failures, and those failures were known before, and nothing was done. And so we've got to make sure that we identify the areas where we're more liable and where we have the most risk, and to be able to assess that and close some of the risk. But I kind of go back to what you were saying, and you know what? And I think it was somewhat of a compliment there because for whatever reason that the county ended up moving away from the contract with the city, you're right. The county has had opened up a lot of emergency stations throughout the county, making it more responsive and more accessible to the people in rural Webb County. For years, we at the county had to respond to a lot of the issues in El Cenizo. The El Cenizo did not have a fire department or police department for many years. And the county was there to step in. Fortunately, we had the ability to do that. But as mayor, you left a lot of the first responders, the people there without any first response, no fire, no police, where we had to step in and do some of that. I'll ensure that we won't do any of that for either Laredo or the rural areas and continue to expand on that.
Okay. The next question, and you'll start it off, Mr. Garza, is the following. During large-scale emergencies such as floods, freezes, and border-related humanitarian events, how will you coordinate with state and federal agencies to ensure rapid response and resource delivery?
And again, I think it kind of continues off of what we had talked about earlier, is making sure that the Webb County Emergency Response and Emergency Management is coordinating with the city as well, so that when we do have to activate them and be in a position where we're again responding to either a natural disaster or a non-natural disaster, that we are in communication with state and federal agencies and resources to be able to draw those down as quickly as possible. But I think the important thing is that we remain vigilant and anticipate a lot of this. I mean, we know what the potential emergencies could be, and making sure that everyone who we have, within our emergency management capabilities are prepared, ready to respond at a moment's notice. And it certainly isn't one of those things where we wait until the emergency is, at our doorstep to practice. I think we've got to be anticipatory and be aware of the potential threats that our communities face. Prepare for them when we don't need to prepare for them, and train so that when they do hit us, that we have the ability to respond and minimize and mitigate a lot of the potential disaster.
Okay, Mr. Reyes?
Yeah, well, I don't know what alternative universe Mr. Garza lived in during the time that I served as mayor, but during the time that I served as mayor, I worked very hard to not only secure state funding to build El Cenizo's first fire station, to establish the police department, the municipal court, and essential services that are needed for any small municipality. And during many of the times, it was, Mr. Garza who, always opposed the fact of wanting to provide services to the rural areas, and especially, working with the cities of El Cenizo and Rio Bravo. Now, look, when it comes to being proactive to emergency services, I can't tell you how many people are deeply concerned when it comes to their leaders. And if we really want to get serious about addressing any type of regional disaster, then we need to start ensuring that we start listening to our community, that we start listening and working with our professionals. And that's something that I want to do. I want to make sure that we establish a regional disaster workforce, so that we can, like Mr. Garza said, not be reactive when it comes to natural disasters. We've seen the consequences of not working with our municipal counterparts, and I think this is an opportunity for Webb County to not only show leadership capabilities when it comes to natural disasters, but also emergency preparedness and response. And it all starts by ensuring that we do more to provide our brave men and women, whether they're volunteer firefighters, paramedics, constables, sheriff deputies, with the right tools and resources, and most importantly, with adequate training to ensure that we are proactive when it comes to any type of natural disaster.
Okay. The next question is going to go to you. You're going to lead it off. And these are security issues. Recent controversies and investigations involving local law enforcement leadership have raised concerns about ethics and public confidence. How will you strengthen oversight and restore trust in county public safety agencies?
Well, that's a very important question, and I'm glad that it's being brought up. And when you look at the overall sentiment of the voters of Webb County, it almost seems like people have lost trust. And not only that, that they view our elected leaders with a negative connotation. And it's sad because you have very hardworking, very well-minded, good-intentioned public servants who go above and beyond their scope of constitutional duties and responsibilities, not only that pertain to their office, but also that give back so much to our community. And when you have bad actors, and it raises suspicion, it unfortunately creates a dark cloud over public leaders. And I think in terms of what we've seen over the course of these past, few decades, it just raises a lot of, concerns. And most importantly, I think it's important to not be quick to judge, to let the judicial process, play its course. But in the event that people are found guilty and prosecuted for their mischief acts, I think it raises serious questions in terms of who they associate with. And I've seen candidates even right now running for Webb County judge, who have been associated with people who have lost not only public trust but have been convicted of serious crimes. And I think that's something telling. And I think people are naive to the fact, and at the end of the day, they'll be the ones to judge us, and whether or not they'll trust us with their vote of confidence to be their next Webb County judge.
Mr. Garza?
Yeah, the issue of corruption, I think, is one that is always present in a lot of the conversations that we have with people, especially considering, some of the past history of things that have happened in City of Laredo and Webb County. And I think it's very important. People need to people need to feel that the people who are running city and counties are people with morals and ethics. And I think that one of the things that we probably need to look at is enhancing and strengthening our how we approach ethics within the county, and looking at the potential of an ethics commission, and strengthening some of those things so that people know that not only are the feds looking, but also ourselves, is that we are looking also to ensure that everything is being done in a above board legal manner. Uh, you know, Everyone deserves their day in court, and obviously the legal system will, the process will determine guilt and innocence at the end of the day. But I will also say that it is incumbent upon us as elected officials to make sure that all of the employees affected by this are in a position to be able to continue to do the work that they are able to do, that our men and women in uniform have the resources and the tools that they need to be able to continue to provide public safety to our community, and to ensure that the people of Webb County are getting the level of service and customer service that they deserve and should come to expect from the county. And so we've just got to be better and put the controls and the process in places to identify the bad actors before they go acting bad. El Paso is a prime example of how they implemented a very strong ethics commission, which has been modeled by others. And I think it may be time that Webb County does the same, to be able to ensure that we have additional controls in place and additional balances in place to be able to identify these problems before they become a problem for our county.
Exactly. Now, the next question, and you'll be the one that'll be starting it. Webb County continues to face challenges related to border security, drug trafficking, and organized crime. What strategies will you support to improve safety while respecting civil rights and community relationships?
Well, I think we obviously our men and women in uniform are our front lines. The sheriffs, constables, they are a extremely important component of law enforcement in ensuring that everybody in Webb County has the safety and security that we come to expect. And so I think that it's incumbent upon us to ensure that they have the adequate resources, the vehicles they need, the tools, the training, everything that they need to remain uh, uh, top law enforcement in our community. We've got to make sure that they have the resources because these men and women who don the badge every day are the ones who are out on the streets of Webb County on the roads and the highways, making sure that we stay safe. And so our commitment is to them so that they can stay safe, so that they can have the tools to do their job effectively and safely. And then also working with our state and federal counterparts as well to ensure the safety of our community, but at the same time recognizing that we have a culture of respect in our community and that culture of respect translate to the citizens of Webb County.
Mr. Reyes?
Yeah, so I'll answer the question because obviously Mr. Garza didn't answer it with respects to, ensuring, look, I've spent my entire young adult life not only advocating, but fighting for families and children, not only within my community, but across our county. And I'm going to do that as Webb County judge. The federal agencies that exist today are not the same as existed a few years ago. And that's dangerous and that's concerning. And we've seen the consequences of dangerous, political rhetoric try and spill into our community. So we must do a better job as public leaders to call out injustices when they occur and to ensure that we protect the men and women that serve our communities in their respective duties. People may remember my fight against SB4 and the state of Texas and suing in the state of Texas when they wanted to implement the Show Me Your Papers bill back in 2016. And that was a very controversial stance to take. But if you look at the reasoning behind why I sued Texas is because they were going to impose additional unconstitutional responsibilities of immigration enforcement to our police officers across the entire state. And that would have been dangerous not only for law enforcement agencies, but also very reckless in terms of, whether they would be sued for malpractice or many other scenarios that you can think of. So my stance on any issue when it comes to protecting our most vulnerable, when it comes to protecting the citizens of our community, is I'm going to be a fighter and a champion for every single person, no matter where they come from, no matter what language they speak, or even so, what area within Webb County they live. Reality is that Webb County already provides as much tools and resources to the brave men and women doing their job. We need to ensure that we continue to strengthen their ability and their capacity to secure our neighborhoods, but also recognize that we must collectively work with our state and federal partners and law enforcement agencies, but not at the expense of civil rights. And therefore, my approach and my stance is, very firm and very committed. I will work with state and federal agencies, strengthen our relationships for the betterment of border security and cooperability, but I would not do so at the expense of violating people's civil rights. And that is, something very important. And it's unfortunate that we're seeing all of this play out right now across our country.
Thank you. The next group of questions are from subscribers that send in. And again, I'll mention the subscriber, thank them, and read the question. And the next question, you'll start it off, Mr. Reyes. The next question was submitted by one of the subscribers, Fauster A. Delgado. It says, who will serve as your chief executive officer, county administrator, if you are elected? And what qualifications will you prioritize for that position?
So, can you repeat the question one more time? 'Cause I want to make sure that I got the position right.
Who will serve as your chief executive officer?
Okay. So currently, Mr. Uribe serves as the Chief Executive Officer. I am under the belief that he has done a remarkable job in that position. Look, as the next Webb County judge, my approach isn't going to go in there to replace anyone. If people have been doing their job and they've been doing so properly and adequately, they should not fear losing their job. And I think it's incumbent upon all of us to ensure that we have the right people in place, not only with the experience, but also with the education level to ensure that we continue to move our community forward. And the executive chief officer also serves as the budget officer as well. So I think it's premature to talk about replacing people. I think what we need to do is continue moving Webb County forward, build on the successes, especially the financial successes that we've been able to accomplish during the course of these past, 14 years.
Absolutely. Mr. Garza?
Yeah, I think it's a little premature to look at what kind of staff you would be bringing in. I know that has been something that a lot of people have asked throughout the course of the campaign, and I think obviously the first thing is to get elected and get through the election campaign process. But it certainly would be a little premature. I will say this, that everybody in that office and I've worked with many of those individuals there are fine, qualified individuals who care deeply about the work at Webb County, and I also have spoken to many of them as well. But I will say this: anybody who does come into my administration would be fully vetted, full background checks, and full clear, transparent background to make sure that anybody that we're bringing in will not be a distraction or will not be a hindrance to the operations of the county judge's office. I think, the county judge's office and the county judge itself that position has the ability to do so much for our community. And you certainly don't want any distractions, but you certainly want to be able to recruit the brightest and best as well. So my commitment would be to a full vetting process, also to ensure that we're bringing the brightest and smartest and most qualified, capable individuals to fulfill the policy agenda of the Commissioner's Court and the county judge.
Absolutely. Now, the next question, you're going to start, Mr. Garza, and the next question comes from A. De Hoyos, and the question is, will you conduct an independent audit of Webb County's finances if elected? And what is your understanding of the county's current audit and financial oversight process?
Well, what I would request, if elected on January 1st, a full audit of the entire county operations. If anything, just for my own peace of mind, to see how everything is operating with all the different departments. And look, audits are done for a variety of reasons. Audits are done to and I think the first thing that we think about when we think of an audit is to identify fraud. And while that is a very important component and an extremely important component, one of the things that we also want to be able to identify is any areas of waste, any areas of inefficiency, any areas where we can get better. And that's where audits certainly help us to be able to identify the areas where we may be weak, areas that pose potential liability and risk, and then be able to reinforce that or to close any of those potential gaps. And so, while the important thing and one of the main areas is to identify areas of fraud and areas that may not be in compliance with regulations or the law, audits are important because overall they help us become stronger as a county. And so I think it's important that we not only rely on the independent audit that the county has every year in terms of its financials and everything else that it has to do on an annual basis by statute, but then that we also go above and beyond that to find those areas where we can just get better and identify areas where we can minimize waste and inefficiency and get more bang for our buck, as taxpayers.
Okay, Mr. Reyes?
Yeah, so this is why having proven executive leadership for such a serious job matters. And when you talk about the important role of the Webb County judge, we must understand that the county judge is not a ceremonial role. It is the chief executive officer of the county. And I want to make sure that people at home watching this realize that by statute, the state already requires that the county engage in a financial audit when it comes to finances every single year. We have an auditor and their team that on a monthly base visits cash handling departments and ensures that they are not only meeting policy and procedures, but that they are also in compliance with state and constitutional local government codes as well. And all of this information is readily available on the county's website under the auditor's fiscal transparency page. And you can go back all the way to 2004 to determine and view those independent audits. Now, when it comes to internal audit controls, we already have that work being done by the auditor's office. They do an extraordinary job. They visit with, departments. They do their thing, and then they report back to the commissioner's court and itself to make those determinations. And we have to be very cautious when it comes to, talking about independent audits and, using political sound bites, because every elected office has their duties and responsibilities set by constitution. So as county judge, you're able to not only provide leadership, also set the tone, but ensure that we do the best that we can to work with other departments to strengthen internal controls, I do believe, and to ensure that we have performance-based budgeting and look at those areas to cut any wasteful spending, if any, are occurring.
Okay. Now we're going to go with the other two questions were answered before and some of the other questions. So it's about the emergencies of Webb County, and they were already answered. Both of you answered that with your all's answer to the other questions. But now we're here for rebuttals, and it's 2 minutes if you guys want to rebuttal anything that's going on in the campaign. And Mr. Reyes, you go first.
I think the rebuttal portion would have been nice after having answered the question, but nonetheless, I just want to just use my time not to, rebuttal anything. I think, everybody running for county judge, Paul, in my personal opinion, we care deeply about this community. We really do. We just have very different visions and different approaches in terms of, what we want to do. There are some that want to take us back to a time of reckless spending, almost bankrupting the county. And there are those that want to create chaos and division. And there are those that unfortunately don't even have a single clue of the different types of local government and the duties and responsibilities of county government in itself. So my vision is an all-inclusive vision lived by real experience in terms of being able to address the growing pains of our community, regional planning, coordination, ensuring that we do everything that we can to be proactive and not reactive to the ongoing growing pains of society, and people feel it. So when it comes to talking about lower costs, the only thing that I want to just add in, maybe you can call it rebuttal, but I want to ensure that we go back to not only bringing back the I guess, discounts for people who pay early in terms of their property taxes. But then also, take into account that, I know that Mr. Garza mentioned the fact that, he would want to start looking into exemptions for property tax owners. But I think it's more than that. I think what we need to do is we need to have a true fighter and champion advocating for real property tax reform at the state level. Keep in mind, this is a state issue that trickles down to the appraisal districts, which, I'm sure he's familiarized with because he served or serves as a, a member of that, appraisal board. But we need to do a better job in terms of, advocating and making sure Webb County has a voice and a seat at the decision-making process when it comes to addressing real tax property tax reform. And I think that's moving forward. I think that's something that we need to be cognizant about. It sounds good to just say we're going to lower taxes and or we're going to put exemptions. The root cause of it is at the state level, and we need to work diligently with our representatives and our senators to ensure that, we ensure that we have bills that not only reflect the uniqueness of border communities, but that if we want to get serious about property taxes, we need to, address the root cause and advocate for real property tax reform.
Mr. Garza?
And I guess we'll pick up on that one, and I just want to bring up a couple of other points, and I certainly don't disagree with what Raul is saying in terms of we've got to do our part in working with the state, but if we simply rely on the state, I think we're going to be waiting on them for a really long time because we know how slow things move in Austin, and we know how politics gets involved in Austin, and we also understand how if we're going to rely on them to handle and tackle this for the people of Webb County, we're going to be waiting for a long time, if not forever. And so that's why my philosophy in dealing with some of these issues is let's deal with the things that we can control here within the borders of Webb County. And a homestead exemption, we can control that 100% without relying on anybody from anywhere else. And so we need to work on those things, on the things that we can control and approve here at home to help the people here at home. The state statute gives us cities and counties the opportunity to give up to a 20% homestead exemption. 20%. No one has taken that on yet. And so here we have an opportunity to be able to implement that and take matters into our own hands without relying on anybody else. And yes, we need to work in concert at the same time to be able to look at the big picture. But this is a good first step in showing people that we are serious about tackling property tax issues at the local level. And so that's why that's important to be able to look at that and putting money back in that would give people instant relief from one from one year to the next, from one tax-paying year to the next. But I also just want to kind of touch up on a couple of things. I know that earlier in the discussion, we talked a lot about human resources offices and how important it was to make sure that we were hiring the best and brightest, and that the process is transparent. Our commissioners court during my tenure were the ones who created the human resources office. That was one of the things that we saw was important in implementing a human resources office, to see and to do all the things that Mr. Reyes was suggesting. That was the whole point, because we recognized the fact that things were not done properly, that things were not being done the way they should be. And that's why we brought it upon ourselves to create a human resources office. And it has evolved over the years. And can it still continue to evolve to get better? Absolutely. Part of my campaign is telling people, look, I think you need to expect more from county government, from all government. And so certainly we have a lot of work ahead of us, but a lot of the foundation has been set. Now, we also recognize with that Human Resources Office that the payment and payroll and how employees were paid was also very unfair. And so our commissioners court was the one that started with all of these studies to make sure that our people were getting paid properly. That somebody who had been with the county for 20 years was moving up and not getting the same as somebody who had just started on day one, because that was happening. Is there still work that needs to be done? I'm sure there is. But our court was the one that recognized that this is where it needed to start, so that things could slowly start to get better. And it has. But again, going back to that, I think we need to expect more. And then going back to this idea of audits, yeah, there are internal controls, there are internal audits, but they are internal. And I think we do need independent. I'm not one who wants bare minimum. To rely on what we have within the county and our internal controls is bare minimum. Expect more. And we need to have more independent audits, not just the one that we got to do every year because statute requires us, but ones that statute doesn't require, the ones that are going to make us better, the ones that are going to allow us to do more, and the ones that are going to allow us to do better. I don't want bare minimum. I want high expectations. And that's what we'll get in a administration where I am county judge.
Good answers. I think we can continue with the closings if you all wish to say any words. And you'll start off with that first, Mr. Garza.
How much time do we have, Paul?
2 minutes.
Okay. I just want to thank you for hosting this, and everybody who's watching and everybody who will be watching this. And I agree with Mr. Reyes said earlier. You got 4 individuals who care deeply about Webb County, have different philosophies on how to get there. But I do want to submit to the people who are watching today, is of everyone who is running, I am the only candidate who has actual commissioner's court experience, having sat at the commissioner's court dais for 8 years, knowing how the process works, knowing how things are passed, knowing how to work with the commissioner's court and getting things passed. You're only as good as your ability to get to 3 votes. And you could have the greatest ideas and you could have the greatest projects in the world. But if you can't get the majority support on the commissioner's court, those projects will never see the light of day, and those projects will never come into fruition. Over my 8 years, passed hundreds of agenda items, brought in tremendous number of projects to our community, and projects that have real world value. And I come back to a lot of the things that we talked about during this debate, implementing civil service, making sure that our employees felt safe and protected when they went to work, talking about making our human resources and our payroll and taking care of our employees a priority, making sure that our law enforcement and our deputies, our constables, and everyone on the front lines, have the tools and the resources they need to not only remain safe, but also to keep our community safe. If you've ever picked up the phone and dialed 311 because you had a customer service issue, that was an agenda item that I proposed in 2007 that I worked not only with the Commissioner's Court, but also had to cross the street to City Hall and get them, the city, involved. And we had our county city 311 number. Fernando Salinas Community Center was also a project that I worked with the city as well to make it a reality, to have a top-notch community center for our youth and for our entire community, for our elderly, and for those who needed social services to be able to go there in the central part of town and have those services. Working with our school districts and bringing parks to North Laredo and working with our city counterparts and enhancing the North Central Park and getting the projects and everything necessary to get the loop. All that construction was initiated 15 years ago. And so I'm very proud of a lot of things that we've done. I won't tell you the things I'll do because things that I've done are the things that I will continue to do as county judge. And that experience matters, and knowing how Commissioner's Court works and knowing how county government works, but also being able to work with city, school districts, state, federal. I know how to do that. I've done it for many, many years, and I will continue to do that for the people of our community. I will say this: if Webb County is successful, the families in our community is successful, and we've just got to work tirelessly every single day to expect more and to continue advancing so that Webb County can be a powerhouse, not only in the state, but in this hemisphere, and maintain our role in international trade as one of the top ports in the world.
Thank you. Mr. Reyes?
First of all, Paul, thank you so much for, allowing us an opportunity to not only answer questions, but to have a conversation about the future of our county. This is one of the most important and consequential elections in Webb County's history. And it is vitally important that people not only get an opportunity to hear firsthand from their candidates, but also get to hear their platforms and their vision for what that looks like. Webb County's days are, its greater days are ahead of us, and we must ensure that we have someone who not only possesses real executive level experience, which I have to offer, but at the same time, someone who understands the importance of the role and that will be able to not only continue to provide steady leadership when it's needed most, but also serve with professionalism, integrity, and accountability. I've had the good fortune of serving over 20 years in different public service roles. And within that, I've learned a couple of things is that when you listen with humility, when you lead with heart, and you put people first, great things happen and people respect that. And that is the type of county judge that I want to be for all of Webb counties. No matter if you're from the city of Laredo, from the city of El Cenizo, Rio Bravo, the colonias on 359, 59, Bruni, Mirando, Aguilares, Oilton. I want to be a county judge for every single person. I understand that one person alone will not be able to fix all of the problems that we have. And you're right, as taxpayers and as voters, we should expect more. We should expect more from our leaders, from the people in position of power, to not only do their best but also ensure that we meet the growing demands of our communities and ensure that we start listening and addressing those growing pains that continue to get bigger throughout the years. And that's why experience matters. There's good type of experience and there's bad type of experience. hear many candidates talk about their experience and what they have to offer. And yet here we are in 2016, talking about the same issues and the same problems of the past decade. And so when it comes to executive experience, I will submit to the voters of Webb County that I possess them. I served as, mayor for 14 years. I now serve as Webb County Treasurer, where I not only have the fiscal responsibility of safeguarding people's money, but also being accountable to every single taxpayer. And obviously, as the investment officer, finding innovative ways to not only strengthen our money, but also grow it. And having generated over 40 million brand new dollars of money not only reassures that I am not only prepared, but I am ready to meet the challenges of the future. And I want to make sure that this community that we all love is prepared for the future. And that starts by strengthening families, ensuring that we create strong and safer communities, but most importantly, that we start addressing the growing pains of our people and their pains and their struggles. And I know because I come from a small border rural area. So I know what it's like to work hard to get ahead. And that's what I want to ensure that people feel, that when they look at me and when they see this campaign, that it is a reflection of every single person's struggle. If you work hard and you're afforded opportunities, not only can you get ahead in life, but have a fair shot. And my campaign and the type of leader I want to be is I want to be a leader who provides tools and resources so that our family and children can not only get by, but stay ahead and succeed. And that's why, my slogan is people first leadership, putting people first, because it's important to start bringing in people to the decision-making process and making sure that their votes, not the, people with money or people that have high influences over, our politicians. It's the average day voter that deserves to be respected, that deserves to be listened to, and that deserves to know that their elected official, the people that they entrust their most sacred, vote to, is doing everything that they can to make life a little bit better for them, as they should. So I want to ask the voters of Webb County to look at my history. I've been involved throughout 20 years, not just every 4 years or every election cycle when people are asking for your vote. I've been around every single day, every week, every month, throughout 20 years, putting up the good work of our people, advocating for families and children, and ensuring that we continue to do good by our word in terms of serving others. And that is the type of leader that I want to be as your next county judge. And I hope that with the grace of God and the support of our community, that March 3rd, the people of Webb County will allow me the opportunity to serve as their next Webb County judge.
Thank you. I want to thank both of you for standing up, because it's very hard to put your name on that dotted line. And an old friend of mine, a former judge who passed away, Albino Ben Morales, great man. He told me one thing one time, and he said, Paul, if there's a candidate that doesn't return your calls now, imagine what happens when he gets elected. So I asked the people in Webb County, research these two gentlemen, understand who they are, think about it, and make your vote. You need experience, not somebody that's going to go inside to gain experience. You need somebody that already understands the ins and outs of our county. That's somebody that's going to try to figure it out. This is not Webb County, Laredo, and all the surrounding cities. We do not need that type of service. We're going to wing it. No, we need somebody that's sure. So I want to thank you both. And for everybody out there, thank you for watching. And this was very great. It was a great conversation. It was very amicable in the sense of two people going up against each other with much respect. And we leave you with this. Thank you all. And thank you all out there. And stay safe, be safe, and God bless you all.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.